since we last talked a few weeks ago on signing day, Penn State's brought in one more commitment. Nick Tarburton. He's a 3-star linebacker out of Percassi, PA, 12th rated player in the state, according to 24/7 Sports. So Tarburton's commitment now gives Penn State 3 linebackers in this 2018 class alone. When you Catcher and Jesse Lucchetta, also Pennsylvania kids, and they're not finished recruiting at linebacker apparently, because someone is expected to visit this weekend. 4-star Xavier Peters, linebacker out of Westchester, Ohio. He surprisingly had been crystal balled a few days ago by Steve Wiltfong, who is a recruiting analyst for 24/7 Sports. All his previous crystal balls have been for Ohio State, and to be fair, Ohio State may still very well end up with him in the end. But according to Wiltfong, Penn State leads for him at the moment, as Peters is expected to come visit Penn State this Saturday. Another linebacker keep an eye on is Payton Wilson, 4-star out of Hillsborough, North Carolina. He recently tweeted out his schools, the 7 schools that made his final cut, and Penn State was included on that list. Along with other heavy hitters such as Alabama and Ohio State and North Carolina. I guess you can call him a heavy hitter now, the way they've been playing lately. So those are a couple linebackers to keep an eye out on. It's also, this weekend's going to be a pretty decent hosting weekend for James Franklin and crew. Several big-time 2018 prospects are coming in. Just a few that I jotted down here. Kadir White, 6'7", offensive tackle, 4-star out of the Bronx. Quantel Rains, he's a 4-star safety out of Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. Penn State will be battling Pitt for his services, like they always do for Pittsburgh kids. Tyler Friday, another 4-star defensive tackle out of Don Bosco Prep in New Jersey, famed. Don Bosco is very well known for their football program in that state. I know I think Michigan. I'm thinking Paramus Catholic, but I'm sure Michigan also hits up that school as well. Harbaugh is known for hitting up Jersey pretty hard. Dorian Hardy, another 4-star out of New Jersey. He's a defensive end, 6'5", so he'll also be paying a visit as well. There will be one currently committed kid as well visiting from 2018. That's Zach Kuntz out of Camp Hill, PA, 6'7" tight end, who he committed back in November. Kind of surprisingly, some thought that maybe he dragged his recruitment out a little bit more. I think he was waiting for an offer from Stanford, and apparently once that didn't come, he pulled the trigger on Penn State. But he's coming back to visit, maybe try to get in the ear of some of those uncommitted prospects. Fingers crossed. There's also a few 2019 kids as well that Penn State's, and including a couple that Penn State currently has 100% crystal balls for on 24/7. Nike Hawkins, 4-star cornerback out of Orange, New Jersey, and Antonio Alfano, a 6'5" defensive tackle out of Bergen Catholic in New Jersey, another famed program there in the state. And they even got any prospect visiting this weekend. Brian Bresci, a 6'4" defensive end out of Damascus, Maryland, which is somewhat close to where I live in Montgomery County, Maryland, which Penn State's pulled several prospects out of over the last few years under Franklin. So that's the basic rundown for you in recruiting. I'm sure more will pop up from now until the next time we talk. So recruiting never ends, really. The offense really took off last year. There still were some glaring issues on the O-line, especially once starters such as Andrew Nelson and Brendan Mahan went out with injuries, and they had to rely more on some of the younger players. And so, but they held together, and now they're being rewarded for it by returning several experienced players, including Nelson and Mahan, who'll be back as 5th-year seniors. And then a couple redshirt sophomores, and Connor McGovern and Ryan Bates, who both last year I'm sorry, McGovern will be a true sophomore. He plays a true freshman last year, but Ryan Bates, who redshirted in 2015 and could have very well started then, ended up coming in last year and just immediately took over the left tackle spot. So he'll be back. And under center, as far as who they're going to replace, Brian Guyawith, who departed due to graduation. Name to keep an eye out on is Michael Menitz. He redshirted last year as a freshman, but he was the second highest rated prospect in Penn State's 2016 class and second best in Pennsylvania, only behind one Miles Sanders, who is going to be likely back up to Saquon Barkley this year before he becomes the main guy in 2018. And another guy, Will Friess out of New Jersey, he's another guy who should crack the rotation and maybe even earn a starting spot at some point during next season, depending on how things go. The reason Friess and Menard are names to keep an eye on is because last year they were deemed good enough to play right then as true freshmen. And towards the end of the season, when the O-line was suffering from the injury bug, there were a lot of inside reports that the staff was strongly considering pulling their red shirts and using them, but they really wanted to abstain from doing that if they could. And, thankfully they were able to keep their red shirts and not have to burn them. So now they've got, still have 4 years at disposal, which to use them. Steven Gonzalez, another name to keep an eye on. He was also cracked the rotation, by mid-season. So there's definitely, compared to prior, really, this is the first time in the James Franklin era that you can say O-line not only isn't a weakness, but it's actually going to be a strength on this team. And that'll be huge as far as production for the offense, especially for Saquon Barkley. He would, to imagine him actually having frequent gaping holes to run through on a regular basis, it's hard not to be excited by that prospect.